Hello, everyone. So tonight we are interviewing Stefano, who is with
Hello.
us all the way from Milan.
Yes.
Managed to finally get on the flight,
Yeah, after
get away.
Gatwick shenanigans, I arrived.
Yeah. So we are going to talk about your experience of being on my 12-week soul alignment course.
Yes.
Now, I want to start off by talking about my experience of you
Okay.
on the course, if that's all right, if you don't mind.
Yes. No, don't
So
worry.
So this time, you were the only guy on the course. So I have to say, well done for, being with all the ladies and still stepping up and not being afraid to be vulnerable. Because I personally feel that for men on the planet right now, there is a struggle and a calling to become more vulnerable and more connected to their emotions. And I see this a lot with my other one-to-one clients. The guys there have this bigger struggle connecting to themselves emotionally. And when you came to me, this was exactly your predicament. The
Yeah.
first session that we ever did was, I have these feelings, but I don't know what it is. I don't even know how to compute. And my experience of you being on the course was interesting because you kind of still seemed to be, you'd made some headway, but you were still sort of disconnected from what you were feeling, like the processing of the emotion.
Yes, probably.
That makes sense.
There's still, let's say, still a journey that is still in progress.
Yeah.
No, I don't think it's a journey that will ever reach the last step. But I,
Yes.
I
Yeah.
feel that there is still a lot to do. But it's good to know it.
Yeah.
I, it's the awareness is nice because there is something to look forward to, and to the path is, I don't say it's clear, but I know there is a path, and I know I'm walking,
Yeah. Yeah. It
which is
was
good.
before you didn't know where there was a path. Was there a
Yeah,
path?
anything.
Was there anything?
Exactly.
I mean, can you explain a little bit about what was going on for you internally when you first started the work? Can you talk a little
Well,
bit about
uh,
what was happening,
I
what
felt a
the
lot of
struggle
anger.
was?
I felt a
Yeah,
lot of anger. The
yeah,
the struggle was mostly to cope with my anger because
mm,
that was the overall feeling, almost
yeah,
throughout, like being easily, always nervous and be easily, prone to get annoyed, or get snappy to
mm,
people for no reason whatsoever. And that was almost the only emotion that I was, or the one that was most predominant in my life.
yeah,
So that was my beginning. It was not a good one, to
yes,
be honest.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
um, but I the work with you just made me realize and made me in contact with other stuff, other part of me, and to put aside the anger, to at least let it go away or let it express, so that I
mm,
can feel others uh, feeling, even if it's not pleasant most of the time. It could be like sadness, or could be like
yeah,
melancholy, or something like that, or even boredom. I mean, part of me
yeah.
became bored, which is a step forward, because it means there is something to do. It's
Yeah.
it's a
Actually, there
symptom.
was something you said to me towards the end of the course that really showed me how much you'd moved forward. And for a lot of people, this is going to sound like, well, what does that mean? But it was when you expressed to me that sometimes you noticed feeling lonely. And at that point, it was like, he's moved so far.
Yeah,
Because at the beginning, I don't think you would even have gotten to that. You just would have felt anger over probably most things. Like your anger, I think initially you said to me your anger had started to spill out in your inner world, like at home. And then when you sort of started to pull that back a little bit,
hmm,
it was spilling out when you got on the tube from work. So it was like noticing that actually you're getting annoyed really easily, irritated. And when we're diving into that place, what we have to do is, just to explain to people that are watching, we have to really find out what else is going on, because anger is always the surf on the sea. It's always on the top. There's always something underneath. there's lots of pearls of wisdom under there. So what we want to do is to really like dive deep. I don't know whether we've lost Stefano a little minute, but I'll continue. We really want to dive deep and start. You're back. You're back.
I think, yes, I think back. I think I lost you for 30 seconds.
I was just saying about, we really want to dive deep under anger as an emotion and find out what else is going on in there, because anger is a directive energy. It's always trying to get you to move forward and to do something, to set a boundary or to take some action in your life. You actually weren't taking some action in places that your soul really wanted you to go. Mm-hmm. And when I looked at it, this showed a person who had really like all this creativity that wasn't reaching its fullest potential, which we'll go into in a minute. But really, you're right at the beginning, that's what's going on inside of you. There's dissatisfaction with yourself that then causes these reactions outside. And so normally we start blaming the world. We blame our relationship, we blame our career, we blame the people on the tube that are smelly and too close to us at 6 p.m. We're blaming everything and we're not looking internally.
Yeah, it's true.
So I want to ask you, what were some of the first things you realized about yourself when we started looking at the inside of you? What was going on in there?
I think most of the first thing I realized that I never ever been really like joyful. Like,
yes. Yeah.
It's not been a joyful life, I would say, or at least not that I remember. That's the point. That's what I remember. Maybe it was, but something made me forget.
Yeah.
So to go back to a place of joy or a place of happiness was probably the first step to try to recall something that makes me feel happy, or content, or how joyful, or some positive feelings to be in there. I think that was the one of the first steps that made me realize where to go or how to approach it.
I think you had a cap on your happiness, and sometimes we have a ceiling on how far we can go, and the reason for that is protection. It's like, if we don't let ourselves get too happy, we don't have to face disappointment. But the problem with that is we end up in apathy, and so everything just feels a little bit shit, like a little bit crap, like you're not, and so I think you had fallen into that apathy. To ask you now, okay, you might not feel ecstatic, you might not be on the highs, but how has your emotion changed through the process? Like what
it's within you? Well, there is more, right? I'd say there is more roller coaster of emotion. There is more variety, first of all, which is good. So it's not that I don't feel angry anymore, but it's more focused. And I also, there are other stuff happening. There's joy, there is happiness, there is love, there is or not completely whole, but not
I
void.
missed some of that. The connection went a little bit funny. I think you said you feel sort of joy and happiness and love, as well as anger and
sadness. I say I feel more whole. Like there is more wholeness. It's not void. It's not. There is no heart.
Yeah, because when we did do some of the inner child work, I mean, I clearly remember like the inner child would not communicate with you. By words
whatsoever.
No, not at all.
At the beginning, no. Then we realized that it was more like a playful communication.
Yes, absolutely. Energy through the body. So you really had to start connecting with yourself, like you said, in play. with an energy in your body, which might sound a bit weird to people, but when we go through this process, a lot of the time an inner child will not speak to you as an adult, especially if you were a quiet, introverted child like you were, then it's not going to speak. It will communicate with you the way that you were as a child. And also, you're not trustworthy because you're the angry guy. So that part of you is going, I don't want to talk to him because I've seen what he does when he's on the tube. I've seen what he's done when he's at home. Right. So we have to learn to regain trust with the parts of ourselves that are actually a little bit frightened of us. You know, they might have started out as frightened of a parent or something like that. But basically there's fear that's driving that part. And so the changes that you've started to make, how have they affected your life? I want to ask you that. How are they affecting everything?
First of all, I'm feeling more proactive, like taking more control of what I want to do and steering my life towards that goal, which, you know, it's important, not letting my life steering me, or I was going to say, I want to try to find the correct word and not be misunderstood, but duty sometimes, or be, you know, feeling that you have to do something can become the only thing you do in life.
Yes.
And I'm not saying not to avoid completely your commitment, but to realize how much of those commitments are important and how much your own expectation towards yourself and your dreams. So trying to find the balance of one and the other.
Absolutely.
That was important for me to understand.
Yeah, because I really saw in you a lot of the sort of archetypal masculine attributes that say we must be safe in the world, so we must work really hard and we must have money, and we must, you know, we're now looking for a home and we're thinking about family and we're doing all of that, which is fine. However, because that's, you know, that's really placed in our collective unconscious, like, you know, it's not just men, women do this too. You know, we have to get married by a certain age, or we have to have children by a certain age. There's all this pressure to be adult without asking ourselves, are we actually fulfilled? We kind of seem to be on this timeline where we're doing all the steps that we're told we're supposed to be doing. Oh, we have the job now we work up and we get promotion. We never ask if we're happy in that job. Now we're getting together in a relationship with someone. We're not really looking at how that relationship is going because we're so busy focused on the job. You know, we're doing that thing, just going through the motions of life. And I think your turning point was actually in the recognition that you needed to honor your creativity.
Yes.
And to honor your dream, which is to be an actor.
Yes.
And, you know, whether you do some of your directing thing or whatever, I don't know. But I could see that you could do that if you choose it, but you weren't choosing it because of everything else in your life was safe. And that doesn't seem very safe, you know? The acting world.
It's a fear of the unknown in part, but also the want to leave the coziness of stability, which I wouldn't advocate for jump into a, you know, in complete blindness, but completely to ignore your own desire, that's not helpful either.
No, not at all. I agree with you. I agree that I'm not saying to people that if you decide you want to be an actor or actress or a singer like I was doing, that you should just leave everything. I mean, you can, but you have to have something in place. So what we did with you was really start to look at what can you put in place? What action can you take to start setting yourself up for success? It's not about leaping off the end of the cliff and hoping that the universe is going to catch you and save you. It's you parenting this situation. You have to take some action. You have to alleviate that pressure that's building within you because you're not listening, and now it's making you angry, and then it's spilling out everywhere else. You know, anger can be a really good distraction mechanism that the ego can use to make you think that everything else is pissing you off, when actually it's you that's pissing you off because you're not doing what your heart and your soul wants you to do. Right?
True.
So
True.
you did say to me that you have made some headway.
Yes.
Yeah.
I applied for the agency. I'm very happy with that, and I'm looking forward to the new year for that. So yes,
amazing.
It's been a nice end of the year. So we see how the new year is going to start.
Exactly, because this is the thing. You're stepping into 2019 with a totally different perspective on yourself. I mean, like you said, you feel more whole. There's still some work to do, but because you started taking action, it'll become so much easier for you now. I want to ask you, I don't know whether you have one, but out of all the weeks on a line, what was your favorite week?
Oh, I wouldn't. No, I would say
like it didn't have a favorite.
No, I would say probably it's not a particular week, but things start coming in place when I start the detox, which is quite
yes.
Not ridiculous, but for an Italian,
it's not ridiculous. I know.
But that was probably the moment in which the change started for real.
I absolutely wholeheartedly agree. When you started detoxing, holy crap, it was like the you that I felt was there suddenly started to appear. Before that, you were so like separate from the body. Your mind was very dominant, and you're really separate from the body, that we could get to bits and pieces, but you still really struggled. Your mind was trying to analyze everything. You know what I mean? And then when you started to clean up your diet, it was like you started switching back on. It was really interesting to watch, because for those that don't know that are watching this, before I was doing all the inner child work, I used to run a detox plan. And it was a 3-week detox where we did juicing and we did really clean eating, all vegan, all like no coffee, no like fizzy drinks and crap like that, right? No sugars, no like processed sugar. And what I found was actually through the process of taking people through this detox, it was, I thought, just teaching people how to eat clean and get healthy. But what started happening within me was a realization that I was detoxing emotions, and I was way more balanced during the process, and that everybody else started experiencing the same thing. So when you started cleansing, that's exactly what happened. You started switching back on. Can you tell me what that felt like?
It's actually I was telling my parents, because just to explain, and I felt like more energetic. I was really skeptic at the beginning, because I thought I would have just jumped on someone, just eating someone alive. But no, it was very nice. It was like a constant, to feel more energetic, more present, no sense of tiredness. I was more hungry, obviously, because my calorie count went down. But that it could have been easy to address. So always have something, a smoothie or some juice beside, something to.
Absolutely.
And after that, it just became natural and became part of my actual diet to try to keep as healthy as possible.
Have you still kept it up mostly?
Yes. I mean, I reinstated something like some pasta or some meat, but sugar, like I'm not having basically any white sugar. I don't drink coffee with sugar anymore.
Amazing.
In the morning, I change completely my breakfast, and lunch is mostly salad or soup. So yeah, I kept as much as I could. Although I'm pretty sure that these 2 weeks in Italy, that's not gonna happen.
Italian mamas, I mean, you've got no hope, really.
No, it's Christmas in Italy. I mean, put two things together.
Exactly. But the good news is that you can get back on it when you come back to
London. That's what we were thinking, just when we were back to, maybe not exactly the day after, but start maybe a week after, to go back for the 3 weeks of the same process.
I think so. I think I will join you guys. As you know, I did like 3 weeks of juicing like in November, which seems ridiculous, but actually I felt so good, and I hadn't done that for such a long time. And I think maybe not straight away, but at some point I can see you just juicing, and I think there'll be a whole other level. I know that might be fair when I say that, but I see it.
I'll see. I'll let you know.
Yeah. I know you're like, no, it's next level. Maybe not yet. We shall see. So I want to ask you as well, I'm just having a look at some of the questions I wanted to ask. What was your biggest challenge, and what was the most significant change?
Incredibly, detox was not the biggest challenge.
Yeah.
I thought it was, but it wasn't.
No.
I think the biggest challenge was to face my fears. Was to face the problem that you don't want to face what's your, I'll say your fault, but that you are behind what's happening in your life. Like, you can blame external stuff, and sometimes it's fine. I mean, it's not always our own fault, but sometimes it is. Like when I was with him saying that, I don't have time for this, I don't have time for that. That wasn't true. Just that I didn't want to find the time for that.
Yeah.
And that time could be found if I wanted to. So I just didn't want to. And it's not easy to address that part, because it means that you actually are responsible for not being happy.
Wow. That's a powerful statement.
Yeah. But the moment you accept that, then you decide that you can do something about it. And that's when changing starts for real.
Yeah. So you can't be a victim anymore. You're so on point. That's the thing I think that's tricky for most people, is actually realizing that they're responsible for the creation of their life and for who they're showing up as. And it's really difficult, because at first your mind doesn't want to believe that. It's much easier to believe it's everybody else.
Yeah.
You know, and that everyone else is making you angry, and that life is against you, when actually you're the one making you angry. You're the one leaving yourself unfulfilled. So that was maybe the biggest like challenge. But what was the biggest or significant takeaway like that you learned? Or
coming from there is that I can actually do. Like, I can actually be the moment since I'm the acting element of me not being happy, I can be the active element of me being happy.
Yes.
So it's just the opposite. Although it requires much more effort and action, and it's doable. And
so what does that action look like? What does it look like for you?
Well, for me specifically is, in my own perspective, is, for example, is applying for more acting job, or trying to, be more on point on that, keep a regular schedule of what to do and when to do it. And that was for one side, and the other side, commit more in my relationship and making an effort for that as well, not taking it for granted.
Yes, because basically you and your girlfriend, Amelia, did the course together.
Yes.
And I want to cover that actually, because I have had some people who have asked about doing the course but have had fear about doing it with their partner.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to ask you, how did it change your relationship?
Well, it's been, I think, a slow change. Like, it's not been immediate.
Yeah.
But there is, I think, most of all, there is more communication. That was our biggest issue at the beginning. And there is more mutual comprehension. Yeah. Like, we know better who we are, what we want, and how to express that.
Yeah,
I think that was the main part. And in a way, we are more honest to say when we are pissed off with each other.
Yes,
which is good.
Which is a good thing.
Exactly. Yeah. Say communication was the biggest change, which I totally. I'm really happy with that.
Yeah. Because I think for most couples, actually, that is the problem, that people do not speak their truth. Yeah. I mean, in Align, we do a week on that where we're looking at speaking truth. And it's really difficult because, first off, you need to know what your truth is. And then you need to be able to speak it in a way where the other person can hear you and accept you for who you are showing up as. And you're not vomiting blame on them. You're just expressing what your needs are.
Yes.
And then meeting yourself face to face with the other person, like really witnessing who you show up as. All of that's really tricky. I think for you guys, there was just a lot of things unsaid and things that were being hidden for fear of hurting one another. So, you know, that thing of when you try to maintain the status quo, like you don't want to say anything to rock the boat, when actually that's the worst thing you can do, because it means that there's this horrible kind of energy, this insipid energy that comes in and starts to pull you apart from one another. You know, so actually, even when you're talking about something that's difficult, you'll find there's more connection. This is what people don't understand when you speak your truth. And it's a little bit rocky and it feels a little bit uncomfortable. And you might actually even be really shit scared of being vulnerable. You actually build connection in that place. You know?
Yes, I agree. It's communication is everything. And no one should be scared to be open with the person that they want to spend their life with.
Exactly that.
Because the thing is, if a person accepts you, then they will accept everything of you. And if they don't, then it's better to discover it earlier than later.
Yes, because then you're actually just wasting time and you're living in a fantasy rather than living in your future. You're just...
Exactly.
Yeah. So
you waste your own time and the person's time. So it's more like a mutual wasting of energy and effort.
And you know, life is short for human beings right now. You know, even if we live till 100, that's not really that long. And I'm a person that would rather help people to really understand how to get in connection more quickly and to really discover whether you're meant to be together or not. I mean, even when we were speaking, you know, with you two, I was always really clear in saying to you both, this is about the work of you first. You have to put yourself first. We have to discover what your insides are saying to you before you fully commit to designing this relationship as if you're going to be together for the next 50, 60, 70 odd years, however long you're here, right? You have to honor yourself first, and you can't know if the relationship is right for you until you know yourself. So if you're in a relationship where you're not really understanding how you're feeling, how can you know how you feel truly about the other person?
True.
Right? Because you don't know if they can hold the space for you or if you can hold the space for them. Now you guys have done the work. You see that you can do that, even if it's uncomfortable. Now you can plan. So there actually is more safety. You know, I'm not saying it's not sexy, but there's definitely more safety. You know, we need safety as a foundation. You know, so I can't wait to see what happens with you two next.
Mhm.
But like I said, I think more juicing needs to come. And then there'll be more. And you can call me up, you can shout at me when you're on juice and you get angry.
Will do.
You can blame me for it. I don't mind. The last thing I want to ask you is, what would you say to anyone who is considering to join Align this round in January?
Well, it seems like banal, but I say just do it. But I would say, for me, it's been important. It's been a journey that just started and will keep on going. And I'm happy to have started it, because it made me face, make me put a mirror in front of my face, which I didn't want to. And that's something that I'm very happy to have done. So if you're ready for that, if you think that you need it, then do it. But be ready for what's coming. Yeah. Either the hard part, facing your fear, and then thereafter, when you'll be ready for the next step, which should be the next step in your own growth. That's what I would say.
Beautifully said, because I am always saying that, I set an intention for the people who were ready, and I was really clear on it. I set an intention and I said, anyone who's ready to do this work is so done with how they're living that they are choosing nothing else. Like, they're ready to move forward. They're not choosing to procrastinate. They're not choosing to deny. They're not choosing to hide anymore. They're ready to get vulnerable, ready to see themselves. And you were. And I know that you were really uncomfortable at times. You were at the beginning. But like you said, after you started detoxing, that really started to fall away. It really did. It was just like, I don't know, there was just like the walls started to come down. There wasn't so much defense, and not that you were very defensive, but I just mean in the energy, there was way more openness that happened. So I agree. If you're a person who wants to do this 12-week course, which I personally feel went really quickly, went so fast, you have to be a person that's ready to face your stuff. You can't run away anywhere. And actually, you shouldn't want to, because this is the only place that you can grow is by looking within. The only way. If you try and do it outside, it doesn't work,
That's true. I agree.
So I shall let you go back to your mama, who's probably going to feed you some pasta now.
No, we already had dinner. That's fine.
Oh, you already had it. It's too late.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you so much, Hun, for doing this interview with me and being on the line. Thank you for all your hard work. It was awesome.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
You're welcome. Right. Thank you, honey.
Bye.
Bye for now. Bye.